Um, Really great to see you. I'm David. I'm calling in from Amsterdam. And welcome to Street Wisdom with our fantastic guest, Libby DeLana. Libby DeLana. I think what we need to do is send the love through the screen to each other as well as to Libby. Yeah? Send it through Vanessa. Come on, come on. There we go. There we go. So, I, who is new to Street Wisdom? Who's never done this before? A few of you. Who is back to carry on practicing, deepening the practice? There's something about deepening the practice, isn't there? There's something about doing things once, something about doing it again and again. And that's something that Libby knows a huge amount. Libby is, I tell you what, we'll come to it in a second, but I have a question for you first. Libby was just describing. So, Libby, there's Libby. There's Libby, the amazing Libby, author, creative director, world walker, female leadership champion, proto pilot, fledgling fly fisher. She's our hero. And she was just saying, Libby, we were just talking about the fact that you sometimes look at each other just as you're about to plunge into freezing cold water and go, why are we here? What are we doing here? Is that right? Is that, you kind of you get into rhythm, but then sometimes you're not even sure why you're there. Is that right?
It is right. I think the same holds true with walking, to be perfectly. So what you're referencing is, in fact, some of my dear colleagues, plungers are here. We have a cold plunge water practice where we go to the river, our local river, and it's about, I don't know, it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm sorry, I should have done the conversion to Celsius. What's that, maybe 10?
Cold.
Um,
Oh.
and we go in the water and we do it year round regardless. And there are many times as we approach the water, I certainly do this, where we look at each other and think, what the heck are we doing? But we all know, once having gotten in and made that commitment to ourselves and to each other, that the benefits are immeasurable. And I would say the same for walking, quite honestly. There are definitely mornings I get up and I think, what the heck am I doing? Take a rest, sister. Go to bed. Get your cup of tea and get cozy. You don't need to go out. But it's actually often on those days where that little sexy voice shows up that is the most powerful day to go.
Well, I'm gonna pick that up if I may, because the best things aren't planned. And those of you who know how to use the chat column and have got a free hand, what the heck are we doing? I noticed that 60, 70 people signed up, and usually maybe a proportion actually make it, and we salute you. But the question is why? Why are you here? Why are we here? Yes, I'm going to take you through with Libby our Walkshop experience, the street wisdom, but you made this important. You're standing at the edge of the experiential ice, if you like. So let's get intentional and just write down, why are you here? Why do you think we're here? Go for it. And when you make an intention, it creates a container, doesn't it? That makes the experience more meaningful. So, I always worry I'll die if I go swimming in cold water. So Chris Sollett is here to face mortality and survive. Inspiration from today's conversation. She's hungry for Hiltonk. I'm assuming that's not your name, but inspiration, a breath in, yeah, excited for an event with Libby, just hanging out, yeah, gathering. One of the most human things that we do is just want to hang out with each other. There's something about the energy of people. You don't have to say very much, you can just kibitz, but there's something wonderful, particularly in this world of screens where we're sort of atomized and physically distant. Isn't it amazing how when you meet people like Libby and each other, you kind of feel with them, and there's a sort of transmission, I think they call it in the books. There's a transmission of something which isn't verbal, it's something to do with energy. Slowing down, breaking the routine, yeah, curiosity and curious. Curious is different to interested, isn't it? And curious, it's kind of, you can be curious about something that's not interesting. You can still be curious about why it's not interesting. Curious is that sort of endless, refreshing connection with the world. So brilliant that you're all here. In a minute, I'm going to describe this workshop that we do, and you're welcome to experience. Those of you who have already experienced it know that it's a practice, and you can keep doing it, and it's different every day because you're different every day. If anyone wants to rename themselves, by the way, in terms of the name they want to be called today, you can do that. I mean, you say my name is David. It's not. It's the name I was given 61 years ago. I mean, I can change it. So can you, Libby, right?
Mhm.
So Libby, tell us a little bit. Inspiration, tell us a little bit. How is it? Maybe developing this theme of there are those days when there's an inner Libby that goes, ooh, stay in bed. You don't want to go walking at 5 a.m. Tell me a little bit about that. Why is it that every morning you get up and you say in your book, Do Walk, you say, the phrase that leaps out at me is, I always go. I always go. It's kick-ass, that. Why do you always go?
Well, just to give a little context, I've been doing a morning walk for 10 years. I started in 2011 and haven't stopped, honestly. There hasn't been a day I've missed. Now, I want to put that in context, which is, sure, there have been days when I've been miserably sick and the walk looks like a walk around the block, and mileage doesn't matter, number of steps doesn't matter, although most days I do somewhere between 5 and 10 miles, but I don't really record it. And the reason I started was 10 years ago. Life was grand. Life is grand. But what I realized was that much of my days were filled with all the beautiful, busy things that make up our lives. Maybe if you happen to have a family when kids are young, or I was in the middle of my career. And I realized that much of my day was inside business meetings, calls, conference calls, running errands, blah, blah, blah. And that I hadn't really consciously, thoughtfully carved out any little chunk of time for myself. And I also remembered my 10-year-old self, where I was happiest, and where I'm happiest is the outdoors. And much of my life, while really lovely, charming, I cannot complain about anything, exquisitely privileged, exquisitely, I mean, first, I'm able-bodied to be able to do this, but living in a place where, going for a walk was really inspirational and powerful. I simply decided one day to get up half an hour earlier and just go for a walk. There was no working out. There was no exercise component. It was the equivalent of a seated practice, although I didn't realize that until a few years in. But it was really about getting outdoors where I knew I was nourished, where I am absolutely lit up in the outdoors. And so it was an intentional practice to put myself in the outdoors before the rest of the day started. And that's why I always go. I know I am completely nourished there. I learn lessons there. I problem solve in the outdoors as I'm walking. So it is a non-negotiable. It is an essential component. It is like other forms of nourishment. It is like eating. It is like brushing my teeth. And again, once I put down the sort of measurement, judgment piece of it, again, that took me a minute. I really began to understand what that practice was about. You may have heard of Thich Nhat Hanh and his sort of practice of walking meditation, and he does it in a much slower pace, or did, just passed, but he really talks about getting so connected with your body that you really, really think about, as you put your foot on the ground, you think about the energy you put into the earth. What am I holding? What am I transferring to the earth as I put my foot down? And as soon as I sort of understood that practice, my whole walking practice changed. And that's not to say that every day it is beautifully attentive and mindful. It is like a seated practice, sometimes wild and chaotic. But yeah, so those days where that little sexy, charming, very convincing voice says, you've done it for 10 years, take a break. As I often say, that those are the days I know that I need to go, and those are the days where there's the opportunity to learn the most, because some kind of resistance provides some beautiful friction that may unlock something. So that's why I always go.
I think that's amazing. I hear every word. I recognize it as English. and I understand it, but there's still a sexy voice in me that manages to make me forget. So there's something else you're doing. Is it because I'm supposedly the inventor of street wisdom. Do I remember to do street wisdom? I have a friend, Peter Russell, who's some of you may know. He's a philosopher and a meditator, and a scion of the transcendental meditation field, I guess. And I said to him, you've been doing this 40 years. Is it still hard to meditate? He says, no, it's easy to meditate. It's hard to remember to meditate, even for him. So we salute you, Libby. You've somehow managed to short circuit that part of most of us that goes, yeah, I know this is useful. I know it's healthy. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it today.
Yeah, it's a great note. I think there's something about, as you're saying that, here's what's coming up. It somehow, I feel like I let myself down if I don't go.
Mm.
It's not about a streak or anything like that. I've let myself down because at this stage, I know no matter what, when I come back from a walk, things are better. Anything, a problem that I'm trying to solve, an ache that I have, it is always better. And I know that it's the same about dipping. I know when I get out of the cold water, like the dopamine is intoxicating. So it's something about letting myself down. I know a walk makes it better, and I would be disappointed if I succumbed to that voice.
Beautiful. Chris Solid is sending us a message. All I could read was creme brulee. I can't believe that's what you said. But something, what did you say, Chris?
It's on my, I've just ordered some tea and it's on my sugar packet. In English, this says, you don't have to switch off one light to shine on somebody else.
Oh, it's happening. It's happening. Beautiful. So listen, Libby, you're an inspiration. What I'd love you to do, keeping the Libby energy and the Libby friends who are on the call around us, what I'm going to do is, if I may, is offer you a practice. That is a walking-based practice called Street Wisdom. I'm going to share it with you so that at the end of this hour, it's yours. You can do it. And the nice thing I think about it is, maybe for the less heroic and the less organized, it is something you can do in your house. It's something you can do between your seat as you wander towards the next caffeine hit or whatever it is. It's basically enabling you to use the act of walking as a creative practice. You'll make what use of it you do, but maybe bearing what you said, Libby, which is something in you. I think your body knows it's better with the walking. It's better. I come back feeling better. So that's part of, I think, what we're going to be doing together. It's in 3 parts, those of you who would like to know the structure of it. First part we're about to do now is called the tune-up. And the idea there is simply to tune up our senses a little bit. You know how sometimes in order to cope with modern life we close down, we take the noise out, and we zone in. The idea here is to open out and to reach out with your octopusy arms and legs and whatever into the world around you with the certainty that it wants to play. Yeah, you're basically going to open up to the influences around you and the stimulus, so that in the second part, which is the quest, we're going to invite you to wander in your flat, outside, wherever you want to do. But the act of wandering, let yourself wander, not purposeful A to B. This is A to D to B to C to whatever. This is let your feet be more intelligent than your head. Let your body take your brain for a walk. But asking a question and see what the world sends you as you wander around this plaything they call the universe, this creative buddy of ours. And in the third section, which is called the sharing, we'll share what popped out at you and how might it be an answer to your question. It may not be, but that's it. It's very light. And we'll be finished by whatever the hour is for you. And if anyone wants to stay on and talk a bit more, there's a little 15-minute after party for those who have the time. Does that make sense? Does it sound like a good use of time? And Libby, stay with us and maybe wander with us. And then when we're sharing at the end, love to hear your perspective as a kind of as a kind of Uber wanderer. So, my friends, if we're ready, what we're going to do is pick up a seed from what Libby was saying. And I'm going to invite you to use the feet that, if you can, that you've got. And let's play with gravity. Let's see what it's like to plant our feet on the earth. So listening to the computer or the phone, but not looking. The eyes are a little bit like, we're in this very visual age. If I can't see it, it isn't there, you know. The eyes are a little bit the fascist of the head, we call them. It's like, I want to be able to see this. You know what? The ears, the heart, the chest, the breath. Let's listen to me. If you would, but don't look. So if you can, those of you who can, I'd love you to stand now, just to check that your feet still work. Away you go, and you don't need to look at the screen, but just listen to it. There you go. So stand, and as you do so, remember what Libby was saying about really planting your foot. That you know, when a child starts to walk, what a moment that is when you've made gravity your friend. And you've planted that foot on the earth. And as you plant the right foot or the left foot, just enjoy the kiss of the sole of your foot on that solid thing, whether it's through your sock and your shoe or whether it's directly on the earth. It's good. And then you might want to, again, following Libby's doing it already, but you might want to transfer weight. Brilliant people, we can transfer weight, we can play with gravity. And as we transfer weight from one to another at whatever speed works for you, you're giving those lovely feet of yours, those lovely feet that brought you all this way, giving them a little massage. If there was oil on the soles of your feet, what shape would that leave on hot wood floor? Yeah, what shape would how does your soul meet the earth? And those of you who have knees, see if they still work, yeah? And notice what happens to your head as your knees get engaged. Maybe your knees are taking your head for a walk. Oh yes, well done, beautiful. And what about hips? Those of us that have them, interesting how that when we use the hips and the knees, we can become more three-dimensional. We're not two-dimensional A to B people anymore. We're kind of three-dimensional wanderers, yeah, and our head doesn't have to decide, maybe our hips or even our shoulders or our neck. Beautiful to have a neck, beautiful to have a neck because we can look up and we can look down, maybe give that neck. Imagine your eyes are like lamps and you're painting your surroundings with light. Yeah, above and below. Notice, three-dimensional beings suddenly. Not just heads sitting at screens. Beautiful. Okay. And now let yourself come to rest wherever you choose that you're comfortable. And what we're going to do is to tune up our senses. We could do this in an effortful way, but instead, let's be elegant. Let's have some fun. Yeah? So what we're going to do is we're going to go for 3 little wanders of about 3 minutes each. You don't have to wonder about the time. I got that. Rachel and Mark, we've got that. Yeah? So you can unhook from the adult business of busyness, as Libby was talking about. We give you permission not to look at your watch. And each time, one of these wanders, we're going to give you a little instruction. And when you wander, bearing that instruction in mind, it lights up a dimension of your embodied intelligence. Your intelligence is embodied, not just in your head, but throughout your body. So by the time we finish these walks, we're going to be intelligent body beings, not just thinkers, yeah? So if that's okay, I'll give you the first instruction now, and these are all simple but fundamental.